This region around the Great Lakes has been called the heartland. When it comes to agriculture, there's hardly an area in the world that compares.
Everybody, just hold on. I don't know what we're going to have here.
There's a lot of self-proclaimed geniuses out there that know the national yield, but they're all wrong.
Manage money, piling in.
Double digits higher.
So at this point, we're in kind of uncharted territory.
There's a lot of money on the sidelines.
So that was a crazy one.
That's what brings the viewers back. That a boy.
Good morning, everybody. It's Monday, November 17th, and this is the AgYield War Room. I'm Dan Dempsey, and I'll be moderating today's session. As always, if you've got any questions or comments, please feel free to drop us a line in the chat area. We'll be sure to get to it during the show. Overnight markets here, December corn up 3/4 at 431. January soybeans were up 13 1/4 at 1137 3/4. And December Chicago wheat was up 4 3/4 at 532. No export sales announcements here this morning. We will have NOPA crush out at a little later at 11 o'clock Central. They're looking for a record number, 209.5 million bushels. So we'll keep an eye on that number. Visit about it tomorrow there in the War Room. After Friday's report, we did get a vague statement from the USDA highlighting that some of their usual data sources were unavailable for the report. And as we were talking about before the show, none of us really know what that means, but certainly something to hang their hat on as we get into the very important January report. We'll have December option expiration this Friday. So I know we'll be talking a little bit about that as well. But I guess, Justin, to kick off the week, big volume in beans overnight. And I know we're still, everybody's still jostling back and forth on everything that came out from the USDA report on Friday. So I guess, what are your thoughts as we start the week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think too much different. I think if you're a bull that was upset by the number, you're gonna kind of attach yourself to any little thing to say, like, oh, see, that's not right, kind of thing. There was a lot of objective yield data in the report as well. They published October data numbers, November data numbers. They talked about using continuing to do surveys and objective yield data during shutdown. So again, attach yourself to whatever part of that story you want to fit your bias as far as yields go, in my opinion. That being said, I still think digesting over the weekend, I think the numbers make it hard for the ultra bullish low yield numbers to get have as much credit in that thought process. I think, from these numbers, I think it's easy to say that, it could come down and still, be plenty comfortable on supply, especially on the corn market. And then beans, I think a lot of the buying, they had, Bessent and Trump again, doubling down, saying that China's going to buy these beans. It's November 17th, right? So if they're going to do it by the end of the year, it's pretty quick. I think you pair that in with some, Ben brought it up, but, just some dryness concerns that are starting to develop in South America. And when you're coming off of 6-7 perfect years in a row and just gigantic growth, if you start questioning that for the first time, I think that's such a more important thing than a weather problem here is, even a slight problem in Brazil with the amount of, acres and bushels that they produce anymore is a bigger shock to the global supply than anything we see here.
That's a good point. And, as you mentioned, China, I mean, they got to average almost 380,000 a day to the end to get to that 12 million number. And we didn't see anything pop up this morning. So tough start, but I don't know. Have we ever seen where they'll just come in and do one lump sum?
Yeah. I mean, they used to go do frame agreements.
Yeah.
Right. Where they'd come by 6 million tons and shake some hands. And that was kind of an annual thing. Call it 2008 through 12. So they've certainly got a history of doing that. I mean, frankly, they just did one in Brazil.
Yeah.
While we were negotiating our stuff. So they've
a big one.
Yeah. I mean, it would be like we've been talking about on the show. I mean, you're talking about $5 to $6 billion for that 12 million tons. I mean, aren't they losing that a day in tariff stuff right now? So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's pretty small for them. I think it's probably got a lot more political, leverage that they think that. But as far as dollars or, people are talking about, their ports have, too many beans. Like, that's all true. Again, they could cut a check for $5 billion, buy those, and do whatever they want with them. You know, we talked about throwing him in the ocean, but I mean, I'm kind of half serious there. Like it's relatively small, what we're talking about here.
It's just a chip on the table. That's a good point. Ben, option expiration on Friday. Anything that you got your eye on there?
Really, we're still in range bound trade with the exception of our little blip above 37. I'll take a little bit deeper look at that this afternoon. I just think it's a good day when everyone's excited for the report, and the report was not bullish, so to speak, in any way, especially for corn. The market, though, will figure out whatever the crop is, I think, long before the USDA does. All the information that we got is something that was really behind us. We're still going to continue to see some export sales reports, and make sure you want to see if the diversification of our export we've talked about with some of these trade deals, if those start to show up. But I think it's a really good couple days to sit back and watch and see how the market shakes out the days following the report. So beans pretty impressive. Overnight they sold them off to start pretty hard, and it's been nothing but buying ever since. So I think what Justin said, we talk about by the end of the year, it's important to remember that you can get the sales on now and they can ship later. So China's in a pickle if there is a crop problem in South America, and they would definitely be forced to come to the US at the same time that we've only planted 79 million acres. So I think without sounding too simpleton, there's probably a lot of people looking at that risk reward at this point and thinking, I've got $1 to the downside and I might have dollars to the upside. So we'll see what happens. No COT data yet. But I think it's a good couple days to watch. Any strength in corn, I think in the short term will have to be associated with some bean strength. I mean, this morning you have beans up 13 and corn's up 3/4. So tells you where people's eyes are at.
Dustin, good morning. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I think if they're trying to adhere China to make sure they're buying that much, I think it makes sense that we should see the ratio move up. Myself, the ratio has been performing pretty well, and that's beans divided by corn. The yield numbers, without discounting them, I think that if you say if they're anywhere in the ballpark of that number, I think we're still left with a lot of corn supply. And we don't have a corn deal with China, we have a soybean deal. So that's another thing to kind of consider, is that we're actively trying to get China to buy not a specific dollar amount like the last time, but a certain number of beans. So if that's just anything to kind of hang your hat on, is that if that doesn't happen, what is the chance for increased government payments there? It could be. I think just operating under the idea that if you didn't get the sale price out of the actual crop itself, you're going to get more government support this year. Just having that mindset, I think, help people keep a lot of balance to what could be. We talked all year about the chance that China might start buying, and there's a lot of people that would poo-poo that idea and say there's not coming for it. Well, if they didn't, we'd probably be looking at very, very sizable MFP payments right now, based on what we've heard from the administration. And if they do, and beans are $12, $13, what are those payments? Are they severely reduced? Are they nothing at that point? I think there will be some sort of payment coming, but just keeping the balance against the fact that it's a hot political football right now, and you kind of gotta play to that, I think, when you're thinking about your own risk.
Yeah, I guess I'll pose the question. I mean, you guys surprised after Friday's report and last night's trade to see us here? I mean, coming in this morning with the bean strength and corn basically where you started pre-report, essentially, maybe, or when you started rallying, I guess. But, I think if you looked at those numbers, you would have had a sort of a different impression,
Well, go ahead, Justin.
I was going to say, my opinion is, beans, I don't think was a bearish report. I think it was just frustration over there not being a bunch of Chinese bean business announced with the daily flashes,
Mm-hmm.
which, to be honest, like we kind of knew that. I mean, we know enough people that you didn't see really any good evidence that this was that there was massive buying program going on.
Mhm.
We'd actually heard, you know, Ben did a good job, heard some of these stories in corn. So, I mean, there's enough people out there that knew that there's business being done or not being done. So that's my take on the bean side of things, that the report, you know, there's nothing shocking there. You got 290 carry out, still hinging on China. So I don't think that was, I think that was maybe a gut reaction to put it down last night that hard. And corn, yeah, you're back to probably where it starts to matter. You know, I think it's probably a gut punch for a lot of farmers that wanted to sell, you know, a bigger rally. So I doubt there was a ton of farmers selling on Friday's numbers. I think still probably just sitting there trying to figure out what to do. So hate to be overly simplified too, but I guess
Yeah.
I'm not shocked. I think there's probably a lot of people like, okay, now what? Like if
Mhm.
you'd been a spec short, you most likely have been running before the report. Right? They did a good job of getting through all the numbers where you're like, it just doesn't pay to be short. So now you get this bearish number. You don't just like necessarily run back. You just got done licking your wounds. Do you run back and just get short again? Or do you kind of wait and see how it starts to trade? I guess that's kind of my feeling on it. I don't think all the bears jump back in, so let's get super bearish again. So
Yeah. Ben, looks like you got a thought there.
Yeah, I think that for corn, it'd be really impressive if we were to get above the highs from Friday. I don't see it today. I don't see it on anything to really chew on, especially with first notice day coming. But I think corn has buyers on breaks. We're the cheapest corn in the world, and over the next 3 or 4 weeks, we'll get a lot clearer picture of how much business we've done. And you know, soybeans, if they really start buying into the drought story in South America, and we talked about this months ago about the potential of soybeans. If those things come together, the business and a problem that's, whether it's real or perceived, I think all it would take is perception to really fire up the bean market. And you know, if you follow this is a hated bean rally by a lot of people, and technically it looks amazing. You know, a 20-30 cent pullback from the highs that's nothing in soybeans. You see how they do today. They need to take those highs out. But if you can have both of those come together, not only could we have a really fun soybean market, I think we put ourselves in a really good position to have an acreage battle on 26. So again, tomorrow, I'm a watcher.
All right, really good good stuff there, guys. We got a couple minutes here. Ryland, it's getting kind of interesting. It's been interesting in the livestock sector, but I guess Friday's headlines and tariff adjustments from the administration, you know, I think the one key point is that the 40% on Brazilian imports is still in place. And I think that's where a lot of people had their eyes. And then just on the hog side, you know, we rallied pretty good at the end of the week, but still finished lower. So what are your thoughts here as we start the week?
Yeah, right. So the focus is still going to be just on what happens with Brazil, you know, and I think that's going to be an ongoing negotiation. But like as far as the cattle market goes, I think there's been a lot of anticipation for news, a hard line date set for the border reopening, and when the tariffs come off Brazil, that 40% tariff. So I think overall, you know, you're baking a lot of this bad news into the market, but we know that there's a crusade going on by the administration to lower cattle and beef prices for the consumer. It's obviously going to take a really long time to do that. I mean, we've thrown a lot of headlines at this thing, and we are seeing cash still kind of creeping lower here. We're $3 lower last week. But on the other hand, you know, we've seen the decimation in the futures, and I think the real concern is just now we've entered in this multi-year bear market just on these headlines and some of these, you know, some of these moves that the administration has made alone. So, I mean, it's definitely disheartening, especially when you look at supply reports, or at least what's coming down the pipe. We know that everything's still going to be historically tight. You know, we're not going to get a good number until January to really give us an idea if we're retaining heifers and to what degree. Obviously, I think the market susses out that it's probably happening. It's just a matter of how much, you know. So overall, I think that's really what the anticipation is going to be for those three kind of key things right now to define just where the market goes over the next several years. But obviously, there's not a lot of good news in the headlines, as it were. So we'll kind of see how everything shapes up there to start the week. On the hog side of things, yeah, I mean, overall, still a new low in cash. I mean, we're still kind of breaking here. We did bounce back on Friday. I think there's a little bit more optimism. You get out to 2026, just seeing the USDA numbers kind of lower on the 2026 side of things, but it seems like there's a force that's kind of driving this thing down to the ground, and it feels like it's kind of cash led right now. So maybe demand just is not as good as we would really hope right now. Just on that front, you could see a pickup before the holidays. Maybe that's going to be our saving grace, but the futures have baked in a lot of negativity overall. We did see carcass up $1.96, bellies up $2. So I think you got a little bit of cautious optimism just from being oversold last week and from those numbers, but overall, yeah, there's just not a lot of good news to wrap your hands around.
Very good. Appreciate the update there. Just came into the open. We got stronger markets here. December corn's up 2 1/4 at 432 1/4. Jan beans up 19 3/4 right now, 1144 1/4. And December Chicago wheat's up 9 1/4 at 536 1/2. As I mentioned earlier, we'll get NOPA crush out at 11 o'clock Central. Also, weekly exports inspections will be out at 10 o'clock. So government's back open. We're going to start getting some reports rolling through, which is good to see. We appreciate everybody that tunes in there on a daily basis. If you wouldn't mind, throw us a like and certainly subscribe. Doesn't cost you anything to do so. I don't keep you up to speed on everything that's going on with the AgYield. So again, thanks to everybody that supports the show. We're doing this live every day that the markets are open on X, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live at 8:15 Central Time. Appreciate the thoughts and comments here this morning, guys. It was a good show. Hope everybody has a good start to the week, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.
The War Room is proudly presented by AgYield. For over 50 years, the AgYield team has provided grain marketing and risk management solutions for growers across the country. Our veteran consultants harness cutting-edge technologies to pinpoint risk, optimize market performance, and protect your farm's profitability. Discover a new approach to farm revenue management at agyield.com.
Hey guys, Jack here. Be sure to support the show by hitting the like button, leaving us a comment, and subscribing to the channel for all the latest updates. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.